What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. This is just a quick reaction video to today's big signing news that James McCarthy and Joe Hart have both joined Celtic on permanent deals. We'll try and rattle through this one as quickly as we can. I've got Martin with me. I'm playing sevens at 7 o'clock, so this will need to be the quickest YouTube video in history. Martin, we have been and we still are dying for bodies in. But we've got to today, the news about Joe Hart broke last night. So we'll deal with him first. Where do you sit on it? As I said last night, it's really splitting the fans, and some people think he's maybe a bit past it, and others think it's a great signing and it could really sort out the woes that we've got in that position of the pitch. Would you make a Joe Hart?
It has split the fans a little bit, but I think when the rumours were rife, there was a lot of people against it, but the reaction to this afternoon's news appears to be more positive than negative. I think now it's actually happened. The fans are reacting positively. I think we have been in a period of despair and decline. So these sort of signings are welcomed for sure. They're long overdue. Whether he's past it, I don't know if fans are referencing his age when they say he's past it. I know there's some questions suggesting that a 3-year contract was too long. So Hart's age 34. I'm not entirely sure when his next birthday is, but the great Ronnie Simpson was 36 when he lifted the European Cup. Just as a prime example in our club's history, what a great keeper he was at 2 years older. And he went on to great success after that as well. And some current goalkeepers, so Craig Gordon, 38, stopped us getting an equaliser at the weekend and potentially a winner. McGregor's had a couple of good saves across the city at age 39. Casillas at 40 and Buffon at 43. So
I think I've by saying past it there, I've used the wrong phrase. I think some people think his best days are behind him.
Yeah.
Just in terms of his form of his recent clubs.
Yeah, he hasn't settled that club. He hasn't settled, has he? So he went. Pep came in and made an early decision. One of his first decisions when he arrived was, goalkeeper was going for whatever reason. There was a lot of eyebrows raised as well as to whether or not that was the right decision by the manager. But he was adamant, and then he disappeared off to Italy, and that didn't work out. And I think he's had a total of 8 clubs since Man City. Most of them loan spells. Some of them he's been second choice rather than first choice. He hasn't played any more than 36 games for a single club. And I think there's 2 clubs where he's played roughly 30, 40 games, those sort of numbers. But out of those 8, he's only really made a contribution at 2 of those clubs. I think this is a perfect move for him. I think he's been a bit unsure, who would be interested in after Man City. Would another Premier League club come in and would he be first choice? And that hasn't quite come to fruition, which has been a bit of a surprise, to be honest. But he obviously tried the journey abroad, didn't work out. So I'm massively excited about that. I think 266 games for Man City, 75 caps. He's won all sorts of goalkeeping awards, and some people say that's because the team he played at, but you've still got to win them. He won the Golden Glove Award 4 times out of 5 years, 2 Premier League titles. So I think he's a massive signing, and 10 times better than what we've got combined with the 2 goalkeepers that are there just now. So it's probably the one position in the park that we needed cover. We needed somebody to come in and be ready to start every single week, and that's what he is. It's a massive signing.
It's so important for us to sort that position out. I think there's always people who will find some sort of negative with any signing, but I think these 2 deals we've got over the line today, as Mark says here in the comment, the experience they'll bring is invaluable, and they are both a good age. James McCarthy has joined on a 4-year deal. He's 30. They have played at the highest level. That is important for us because we have, most of the signings so far, I think Bar Starfelt and Furuhashi have been 21 or 20 years of age or younger. So experience is a big thing, particularly with the makeup of the squad we've got just now.
Absolutely, and looking at McCarthy, if you look at them combined, first of all, so 550 plus appearances in the Premier League between those 2 players. That's sensational. 550 plus, more than 120 international caps combined between the 2 of them, and I would argue they're both at the peak of their careers. Celtic's a good move for them because they haven't had much game time in the last few years, both of them. Obviously McCarthy's had injury problems, and Hart's kind of been trying to get over going from the dizzy heights of City to some of the smaller clubs. So it's a great move for them, and it's a great move for us. It works for both parties. Looking at McCarthy as a standalone asset, we've been trying to get him for, well, have we been trying to get him or not? He's been expressing an interest in the club for a long, long time. Every opportunity he bigs up the club. He hasn't hidden the fact he's a Celtic fan. It was his boyhood club, and this is a dream move for him. You see that in his reaction. So we'll get 110% from him for sure. And I know we were here a little bit with one of the signings last year. We were saying the same thing, but I genuinely believe this is different. This is somebody who 100% Celtic through and through. His stats, I mean, he's 120 appearances for Wigan when he was performing consistently well, won the FA Cup with Wigan, which is a big shock, and he played a big part in that. And then Everton and Palace thereafter, decent amount of appearances for both those clubs. So he's 250 plus Premier League appearances, played in the Premier League for 11 consecutive years now. He obviously had his leg break in 2018, but he's come back since then and made a reasonable contribution. But I think the fans are probably more excited about McCarthy than they are about Hart. I think part of that will be the Celtic connection, because you always like to see one of your own signing for the team. Yeah. I couldn't be happier. The fans were in a really bad place the last few days after the debacle at the weekend. The excitement of getting back to the games, getting back on the buses. It felt like we'd all not forgotten last year, because that will be scars will be there for a long time. But it felt like we're ready for a fresh challenge. And then, the European game last week and Hearts at the weekend just set us back quite some distance. And the chat about the protests at the weekend was what everybody was focusing on. This has given us a big lift. And the manager said at the weekend there was going to be a couple of big signings, and he said it with a degree of confidence. So we weren't quite sure what the signings were going to look like. Was it going to be 19-year-olds with no experience, or was it going to bring in, somebody that the fans can get excited about? And these two players are absolutely what we need right now.
Yeah, I think with McCarthy, the thing is, obviously his injury record now. I think we did need a midfielder. We do need a player in that position. I think Sorrow he's been good in games, but very, very disappointing in others. And I think that sort of inconsistency is something that we can't afford this season. So I think while it's not up there with right back or left back or maybe centre half, in terms of priorities, we did need another midfield player in. It's just injuries with him, Martin, and that's something that a lot of people have talked about since he's been linked with us. And I mean, since he's been linked with us this summer, because I know that it's the longest running transfer rumour in history that James McCarthy was going to sign for Celtic. He's been getting linked with Celtic since he was at Hamilton as a 15-year-old, I think. He's missed 74 games through injury since 17-18. So in the last, 4 years, the last 4 or 5 seasons, he's missed 70-odd games through injury. I think he broke his leg. He's got a history of hamstring injuries. So the thing I said about Joe Hart yesterday was that he has to come in the right mindset, the right attitude, and work hard, and he'll do well, because you see these big players coming up to Scotland now and again, and they don't come with the right attitude, and it doesn't work out for them. But with McCarthy, you think that his attitude will be spot on, given his association, if you like, with the club. But it's just that injury history. He has to stay fit if he's going to be a success for us.
Yeah, I think Joe Hart, just very briefly, I think he'll play off the fans. I think he'll love the atmosphere in Glasgow, and he'll, a bit like a Boric without the Boric background. Boric turned into a bit of Celtic fan, and Hart, I'm sure, won't claim to be a Celtic fan with his background, but I think he'll play off the fans. He'll love it. He'll love the atmosphere. McCarthy's injuries, I worry. I've seen that McGregor's game time last year was greater than McCarthy's in the last 5 years. So that kind of just emphasises. I know McGregor plays a lot of games, doesn't he, more than anybody else, but that kind of emphasised. We want him to come in and be bigger and better than McGregor, and yet he's only played a fifth of the game time that McGregor's played in the last 5 years. So it is a concern. He's that type of player, gets stuck in, a Tierney type player that will give you 110%, which we need. What I think he brings above all else is some steelness to that team. It's a weak team. You've seen that at the weekend. The tackle that was put in on McGregor. Celtic of old, you shouldn't need the Celtic fans there to get the players and the team up for that. And we should have been in Halliday's face saying that's not happening. And really intimidating the opposition the way that Scott Brown would do, and other players have done in the past. There's very little of that in this Celtic team, and we lose that impetus. And it's really important in a game to stamp your authority on it. Craig Levein used to say about Scott Brown, if Scott Brown put in a couple of tasty tackles in the first 15-20 minutes, the game was you almost knew the game was lost, because Celtic had stamped their authority and had a swagger about them. We've not got that right now. So McCarthy will bring that as well, because we desperately need that. And it's not just about replacing Scott Brown, it's about getting a bit of togetherness, and Hart will as well. They'll lift everybody around about, and they'll be a massive presence in the changing rooms first and foremost. They'll make a big contribution. They'll be your vice captains, if you like, your unofficial vice captains, and on the pitch, they'll get another 10% plus out of everybody around about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think psychologically, these signings could be big for us. I just want to bring up a couple of comments. David's saying, feels great to buy players you don't need to research on YouTube. That is a bit of a change, because for a while we've been relying on YouTube videos with most of our recent signings. And Paul's asking, can we honestly say that they're Ange signings? That's the other reservation people have got with both of these. How much are they Ange Postecoglou signings, and how much are they determined by the board? Because we don't have a director of football, so you can't say that it's been directed by a person in that position. How much do you think that plays into it, and how much do you think good football players are good football players, and we need to plug these holes in the squad?
I mean, I don't know any club, if any club gets the balance right between, the decision makers, whatever their title is. We've spoken about this on the show before, Paul. It doesn't matter whether it's a director of football or whether it's your CEO or your board of directors. How much of a say does a manager get at any football club, regardless of what the structure looks like? And I think we as fans think that the manager gets a huge say. I'm not 100% convinced, but they probably get a list, and there's probably some degree of dialogue. I don't think there's a manager on the planet that would have been against these two signings. So whether he knew about them or he didn't know about them, whether he found out last minute or not, I think he'll be delighted, he'll be excited, and you can see his reaction as well, and what he said, and the fact he knew about them at the weekend, and he knew that those signings were imminent. I'm pretty sure it's these two that he was referencing. Tells me that he's really been involved in that. I think a lot of people are believing it because our manager hasn't been in Scotland, he hasn't been in Britain, that he's an alien, and he himself has said that. He got asked about Hearts, and he said, of course I know about Hearts. They've got the internet in Japan, so I think we don't give him enough credit for knowing the market, for knowing the players, for the players knowing him. I think he's well respected, and I don't doubt he's been involved in that. And it wouldn't be a long conversation to convince him that those are two big signings, even if it was second hand that he found out about them. But I think the days are older. The manager picks up the phone and phones the players and then goes and tells the board. I'm not sure that's common practice nowadays. I think it's the opposite. But the board identify the players, they have a bit of dialogue with the manager, and hopefully not too often does the manager say, I don't agree with those signings.
Aye, I think that's the important thing. People talk about this a lot, and they talked about it with Joe Hart as well, because they feel like if he was let go from Man City because he wasn't the best at playing out for the back, then how can he fit Postecoglou's team and stuff? But the manager is verifying all of these signings. There is no way the board or whoever has brought this deal about is saying to Ange Postecoglou, we're bringing in James McCarthy or we're bringing in Joe Hart, and he's saying, nah, I don't want them, and then the club are going ahead with it anyway. That is not the case. The manager is definitely behind these signings, and I think that is all that really matters. I think the last thing I want to touch on tonight, as well as a comment for Dan saying, very happy to see that these are permanent deals, as they'll be fully committed to the club. And Martin, that's a big thing for us, because so often in recent years we've brought in some big players for down south on loan, but it really gets us nowhere in terms of squad management, which we've talked about at length recently because of the mess we've ended up in. Bringing in players on loan really gets you nowhere.
No, it doesn't. And we became a club that was only interested in loan players or speculative purchases where it was unknown, and I mean real wild cards. So it's great to see two established players with fantastic CVs coming in and committing to the club, and the club committing to them. 3 years for Hart and 4 years for McCarthy, I think it is. And obviously we've not had to pay. We've paid practically nothing. So these type of things don't happen too often. And the board can't win right now. I completely understand the fans' frustrations and the reason why they want to protest at the weekend. I think we've got a new CEO, we've got a new manager, we've now got half a dozen new players come into the club. We need to talking to Kyogo on, was it yesterday? Paul, the opportunity to talk to him yesterday, and he said that 2 weeks ago he got approached by the club. So the club have done their best in the last few weeks. They were negligent for months, but in the last few weeks, I think tried their best to bring these players in, and there was a delay 2 weeks. He was telling us yesterday, and part of that was him negotiating his release from his existing club, etc. Some of it's some of it's too late and we're frustrated. The position we're in Europe and losing our first league game is the last thing that we needed. But we just need to give this crop of players, this new CEO and this new manager, just a bit of support and a bit of breathing space. The fans have obviously backed them by buying the season tickets, and I think out of those 6 players we've signed, that there's a realistic chance that 4 of them will feature in the team fairly regularly. We still don't know who's going to be on the right and who's going to be on the left, whether it'll be Christian Forrest or the 2 new guys. But the Sheffield Wednesday players, I think, will sit on the bench. But we're going to have 2, 3 or 4 of them coming into the first team. We still need a left and a right back and probably a centre back. And depending on Eddie's situation, we're going to need a striker. But there's a bit to go. But today's a massive step forward. I also believe they can come straight into the European games. That's the 2 wild cards, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see.
Joe Hart was on the plane tonight, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think Joe Hart's on the plane to Poland. So
yeah. So those two are available. Whether it be immediately, whether it be for next round, should we progress. But I'd love Celtic just to build on that momentum, not just rest on our laurels and say, right, we've appeased the fans. Let's bring in a right back, a left back. In an ideal world, a centre back and a striker as well. 4 more players, and that's not even to give us cover. That's to get us a decent start in the 11, isn't it?
Yeah. I absolutely. I think these signings are long overdue. It's too late. It's come too late for the Champions League qualifiers. It's too late for the first game of the season, but it is some form of progress. And I hope that they can both go on to be really successful signings for the club. That'll do us for tonight. If we carry on any longer, I'm going to be late for 7s. So like this video, comment your own thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back tomorrow with build up to Thursday's Europa League qualifier. Thanks for joining us.